is also and missions officer post or something like this. Okay, continue. So also we have Dr. Hassan Salamel or Salamel. Salamel.
Perfectly fine.
Okay, is also an instructor at the Department of English Language and Literature. Of course, he is holding a PhD also and a master degree in applied linguistics. And his, I think, doctorate degree is in English Language and Literature from Karadeniz University, Technical University. And he's interested in second language acquisition, creative drama, language assistant, language learner, teacher psychology, quite interesting, and teacher education. And also, I think Gamze Kurt is your student and assistant at the same time.
She is my student, but she is currently not available as she has had some health problems. But
hope it is not COVID.
She will be able to attend.
Okay, no problem. And also we have Dr. Maher Jasri, and who's by coincidence also my teacher 20 years ago. Okay, and Assistant Professor Maher Jasri is specialized in phonetics, I think, from the University of Essex, England. And he has a very long experience in teaching, especially at the academic level, university level, I mean. And he's interested in pronunciation aspects of connected speech, foreign language teaching, and also pronunciation. Of course, this is part of his own study, in fact, studies, and foreign language, language skills. Okay, with this, I will start with the timetable and the schedule that we have. And the first name is Assistant Instructor Maha Amber. Are you here? Hello? Hello? Ms. Maha, are you with me? She's not muted, but still we cannot hear anything from her. So I will go directly to Dr. Hassan. Can you kindly start? Because you are second in the list.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen first. Can you see the screen, by the way?
Yeah, it's perfect. No problem at all.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So before jumping into my presentation, I would like to thank Bardhan University for this situation, for this event. So I think this will help to social cohesion at a time of social distancing, and I really appreciate the efforts of the organizing committee at this stage.
Yeah, especially it is all online, like organization is totally e-organization. Okay.
But still, I think it helps us to unite.
Inshallah, God willing. Okay, sir, the floor is yours. I will mute myself and stop my video camera.
Okay, thank you very much. And in this presentation, I will try to reveal the voices of teachers of young learners, English teachers of young learners. It is because the stage of, or the situation of COVID-19 situation, let me say, has also had undesirable consequences in language instruction, and as well as, in other walks of life. And so this is the outline of my presentation, and I will try to start with the motivation of the study. I will introduce the topics. I will basically define the young learners, who are young learners, the characteristics of them. And I will go into the challenges faced by those young learners. And then I will try to talk about my methodology and the challenges and the coping strategies by the teachers of young learners. Okay, so so the widespread impact of COVID-19 situation has struck all over the world, and many countries were affected by this. And it is also see the traces of those challenges, that outbreak, especially in language teaching instruction, in language teaching situations. For example, we know that language is important, language teaching is important, and language teaching, especially English language teaching, has become a widespread issue all over the world. So English now is accepted as a lingua franca. And as a manifestation of the significance of English language, we see that English language teaching starts from the early ages on. And in our country, students start learning English at the age of 6 or from the second grade on. And for some students, this is quite earlier. I'm sorry, it is 2014, that's my typo. And when I look at the studies, I see that there are few studies conducted from the viewpoints of the teachers. And so the earlier the better philosophy is good, but I mean, teaching English from the early ages on is something to be welcomed, especially in some aspects. However, how this situation, how language instruction from the early ages on is viewed by the teachers is something notable, I guess. Who are young learners? When I look at the methodology, when I look at the literature, I see that scholars have different distinctions, different definitions, and different divisions indeed. And for example, when I say young learner, sometimes this division is people who are aged younger than 18. But generally, I will take young learner as a learner from the age of 0 to 12. And we have different subdivisions in this category. For example, people who are younger than 5 or 6, they are called very young learners. And usually, a lot of scholars, a lot of researchers draw this distinction. So people from the birth to the age of 13, so including the age of 12. So that age is the age of puberty. And after that, people become adolescents. So what is the fascination with those young learners? What are the characteristics of young learners? When I look at literature again, so I see several characteristics of them. For example, they learn indirectly, they learn holistically, they have short attention spans, so they are easily distracted. And they learn through here and now principles. So we can teach them about the things which are happening here and right now, not something out of this context, not something taking place at another time. So they are active, so they are usually kinesthetic, so they need physical movements in the classroom. And they learn through repetition and imitation. So these are several characteristics of young learners. So what about the challenges, especially the challenges of teachers who are teaching to young learners? What about those challenges? One is associated with the class size, especially overpopulated classrooms create a big problem, lack of motivation, discipline problems. So it is because teachers of young learners need to develop classroom management strategies And those classroom management strategies might be quite different from the teachers of adult learners of English. Teachers' inadequacy in 4 basic skills. This is also a notable problem. Sometimes some teachers do not have the courage to pronounce the words appropriately, and they don't feel adequate, and they feel that I might be teaching something wrong, so they might shy away from teaching adequately. Lack of pedagogical background. So it is about, again, a lot of people who are teaching to young learners are not trained in the field of teaching English to young learners. So this is also a serious consideration. And we have multi-level groups. So we have different groups. People who are learning English, but people who have different learning styles and learning types. And assessment also is a deal. It is a big deal. It is because some of the teachers do not have assessment, a proper degree of assessment literacy, especially for young learners. So bearing these challenges in mind, I asked 3 questions. So what are the challenges of teaching English to young learners in the preschool? So I tried to limit my study to preschool education context. And my second question is, are there any new challenges that emerged after the outbreak of COVID-19? And what do teachers do to overcome these challenges? So we tried to gather data from teachers of kindergartens. So we worked with 6 teachers teaching English in kindergartens. So we gathered data. So this is a structured interview study. So we used some structured interviews. That is qualitative data was used. And we gathered the data through video calls, voice recordings, and phone calls, depending on the choice of the learners. And the participants aged varied between 22 to 32, and they had different levels of teaching experience from 1 to 8 years. So what about the challenges? So when I look at the challenges, we have student-induced challenges. So the challenges which are associated with the students. We have teacher-induced challenges. We have institution-induced challenges, and we have environment-induced challenges. Let's focus on the first one, student-induced challenges. So I categorized the data obtained from the participants into 6 here. So one of them is related to prejudice developed for English learning. So since teachers are the first models, they give the first impression. So student might have, okay, English is something like this. English is something fun. English is, so this might be a challenge. It is because the first impression might be misleading. So if they have great challenges, for example, in their first encounters, this is something serious. And another one is short attention span, irrelevant questions, different proficiency levels, and different intelligence types of learners, and difficulties in practice, putting things into practice, and absenteeism were noted. So just to manifest learners' accounts here, for example, about prejudice. So this is what teachers told here. as children generally encounter the first English language and see a different lesson and a different teacher, they develop a prejudice, okay? So it might be good or bad, okay? It might be good or bad. So it is the teacher who's going to do this good or bad most of the time, by the way. They have short attention span. They are easily distracted. So it might take maybe 10 or 15 minutes to motivate them. Okay, so they will be motivated for a very short span of time. So teachers of young learners, keeping this in mind, usually benefit from games, songs, chants, such enjoyable activities in order to increase the attention span. Irrelevant questions is noted by the teachers. So a lot of students, for example, they say, okay, hocam kapıyı açabilir miyim? Hocam çişim geldi. So these are some questions that they address. So they are somehow irrelevant. Which might be distracting for the teachers as well. They have different types of intelligence. Some of them learn by seeing, some of them learn by doing, some of them learn by, kinesthetic activities, by doing, by running, walking around. And they had teachers reported that they had difficulties in practice. It is because during the COVID situation, they were reduced to screens, and it was very difficult for them to practice the lesson, just to think of the situation from a kinesthetic learner. So he was just stuck to the screen, not doing anything, not manual activities. And absenteeism was reported as a great problem. It is because most of the learners reported that they did not attend the courses throughout the COVID-19 situation. Okay, I will try to. We had the teachers reported that they had teacher-induced challenges. And there were institution-induced challenges too, like crowded classrooms, lack of material, time and source. For some learners, they did not have access to those things. So this is based on a teacher's report, and limited course hours was also reported to be a challenge for the teachers. So when we look at the teacher-induced challenges, it is about a constant repetition. So teachers have to use one word again and again. Okay, think of the name of a fruit, for example, banana. So they have to repeat, they have to keep repeating the word over and over. And it sometimes requires serious patience. So why am I doing this? Why am I, repeating the word banana, banana, banana, banana? So, and there were institution-induced challenges, for example, like crowded classrooms, materials, and limited course hours. And my question, the second question is, are there new challenges that were introduced after the, COVID-19? So yes, there were, for example, attendance, again, crowded classrooms, again, short attention span, untrained, teachers. So this is also an important issue. Yes, we have teachers of young learners, and they have training. They have training, but most of the time, their training is limited to face-to-face instruction, not online instruction. And classroom management problems, for example, we have, if you were to ask me what are the 10 things that we need to teach to young learners, okay, how to mute, for example, how to mute yourself. This is a technical issue, and this requires patience. So it is because a lot of learners are speaking at the same time in the online instruction, and it requires a different classroom management skill. We have environment, induced challenges. For example, there were constant closures and openings, and there were constant announcements. Okay, the school will start, the school will, close. So these created some uncertainties with the teachers. Okay, and I provided some accounts, some teacher accounts here. I'm going to skip them. I'm not going to read them just because of the time limitation. And what do you do to overcome these challenges? How do you cope with these challenges? And when I asked those that question, I categorized their answers into 10. And number one, they desire to create, funny lessons. Okay, funny, so which will appeal to students' interest. And they need to simplify the lesson as much as possible. It is because we don't have face-to-face instruction. So when I say face-to-face instruction, we also use our body, our gestures, mimics. They also communicate. They also help us communicate. However, in the absence of such gestures and mimics, this might be more demanding for the teachers. Getting prepared for the classroom, and this is what they said in the interviews. Again, try to explain the lesson first in Turkish and then in English. It is because most of the students do not know what they are doing. Okay, what the topic is, how they are doing. And see English as a not as a lesson, but applying it in students' lives. It is also a suggestion pointed by the teachers. And communication is also an important issue at this stage. And teachers reported that they need, for example, progress reports with parents. They need to communicate with parents, and they need to inform them about the attendance of the student and so on, so that they will keep going. So to sum up, we see new challenges emerging after the outbreak of the COVID-19, especially for teachers of young learners. And most of these problems are related to communication within the classroom and beyond the classroom. For example, communication with the parents, it is also an issue. For example, absenteeism, for example, reporting their absenteeism. So, most of the participants complained about the little support of English instruction out of the classroom settings. So English instruction is reduced to classroom. So 2 hours of class 1 week. So the thing is, when they step out of the classroom, they go into a different world, which is not aligned with the English instruction. So which means they have little parental support. And this is in line with the TEPA report, especially for English instruction. Parents are not involved. Parents are rarely involved in English language teaching. For example, parents teach maths, parents teach, for example, Turkish, but not English most of the time.
Unfortunately.
The teacher suggested that they need to provide some solutions to promote interaction. It is because most of the time teacher is doing the talk so there is a teacher-centered, instruction, and there is not a dual way. That is not an interaction. That is a one-way, street. And I think this COVID-19 experience has taught us to be armed with new pedagogies and new skills, which may not be related to language teaching, but for example, some digital literacies. And I also highlight one thing here. We need an age-appropriate methodology. For example, how can we teach English to 5 students who are at the age of 5, who are at the age of 7? Is it one for all? Okay, so I think we need to stress this in English language teaching departments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan,
for
this really well-built study according to the what we call them international terms. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And in fact, I wish we had time. The problem with Zoom that the things end automatically. This is the problem. So let's go to Ms. Maha. Maha, are you with us? Hello? Then I will move to...
I am.
You are here.
I am.
Okay, please, would you start, please? Because we started at the beginning and we introduced you, but you were not here. So if you can certainly go on, because the time is really limited.
Okay.
So you have now 20 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are most welcome.
It will be an honor for me to participate in your conference, and in this great opportunity, I will introduce my research, which is called The Announcement of Coronavirus as Global Pandemic, Persuading People or Worsening the Situation. In fact, in unprecedented scene, most of the presidents and prime ministers all over the world announced coronavirus pandemic in speeches which carry with them great fear. Naturally, and since no solution is introduced for the near future, there must be persuasion for raising morale and instilling a sense of national duty to overcome this crisis. However, COVID-19 has a peculiar impact on every aspect of life, including the political speeches. Persuasion in such speeches might be fruitless. Therefore, since rhetorical devices could be means for persuasion, in this discourse analysis study, rhetorical devices will be investigated by means of a model composed
Excuse me, do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I have.
Can you kindly share it with us so we can follow you?
Okay. It is said that sharing is disabled by the host.
No, impossible. Dr. Hassan, did you find any problem with the sharing? Okay.
No.
Okay, now I will make it multiple participation. Multiple participants can share. Okay, can you try now, please?
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Thank you so much. Then I will mute myself and leave the floor for you.
Okay. This research, which is called or entitled The Announcement of Coronavirus as a Global Pandemic, Persuading People or Worsening the Situation. In unprecedented scene, most of the presidents and prime ministers all over the world announced coronavirus pandemic in speeches which carry with them great fear. Naturally, and since no solution is introduced for the near future, there must be persuasion for raising morale and instilling a sense of national duty to overcome this crisis. However, COVID-19 has a peculiar impact on every aspect of life, including the political speeches. Persuasion in such speeches might be fruitless. Therefore, anyway, since rhetorical devices could be means for persuasion, in this discourse analysis study, rhetorical devices will be investigated by means of a model composed of Van Dijk's 1980 model of text analysis and works 1969 for the classification of rhetorical devices. As for the data, two political speeches are chosen: the Germanic Prime Minister Angela Merkel's and the Britain Prime Minister Boris Johnson's speeches will be analyzed to decipher the use of those devices to find out their contribution in making powerful speeches, in changing people's attitudes, then in creating the required ideology. However, the results show that through COVID-19 situation, whether the speech is persuasive and powerful or not, the concept of power is differentiated from what is known from centuries. As for the problem, which is investigated in this research, because of COVID-19, people's head and heart all over the world are toward their president's speeches, which are considered as a salvation to human life, seeking for the accuracy of the situation. However, sometimes humans are responsible for worsening the situation due to fear, anxiety, or emotional distress, according to Taylor in 2019, and presidents are not exception. This study aims at finding out whether the speeches by the Germanic Prime Minister and the British Prime Ministers are persuasive enough to make their people change many aspects of their life. As for the questions of the study, first, since rhetorical devices could be a way of persuasion, what are the rhetorical devices that are used by both Merkel and Johnson? Number two, do these rhetorical devices add reassurance or they might contribute in creating speeches which are somehow fearful? Number three, is Johnson's speech more persuasive than Merkel's? The significance of the study is how we can it. The study could contribute in shedding light on how the decision makers are influenced by crises and to what extent that effect is revealed on their speeches. Therefore, it might entrench those who are interested in politics and linguistics. As for the literature background, we will start with Burke's model, 1969. Burke's classification of rhetorical tropes are: number one, metaphor, which is an implied comparison, as in the silk of the singer's voice. Number two, metonymy. We are using one entity to refer to another that is related to it. Number three, synecdoche, when a part of a physical object is used for the representation of the whole object, then it is synecdoche, which is a grace and word means, it's the problem in the internet, which means the understanding one thing with another. And number four, irony, according to Hegels, explained as rating thing or chinning things once. As Van Dyck's 19 model of text analysis will be adopted. According to this model, many discourse types is discerned to have functional categories which are applied to the sequencing of information in discourse. The first category is introduction, in which the information and the details of the background of the subjects are provided. The second category is called problem, since it involves the highlight. Even the conclusion is the third. Inclusion of conclusions, summaries, dishes, actions. And Johnson's speeches come with the following results. The overwhelming share of rhetorical devices is used by Merkel, whereas Johnson has not reached that level. Number two, for the classification of works 1969, both politicians did not use irony. Number three, metaphor, miracles, where the strategy. Merkel initiates using the metaphor along with the present continuous tense in the confrontation that the effect of COVID-19 is continuous on the social life only without mentioning the real danger of it. but in the rest of her introduction, few numbers of rhetorical devices are used. For example, she said, the coronavirus is changing daily life in our country dramatically at the present. Stalling is the best word to describe Merkel's introduction. Merkel initiates her speech with excessive use of justifications and apologies, expressed with simple present tense, to stress that the mentioned facts are imperative, with including we pronoun, to indicate the inclusiveness of everyone, including the government, in the consequences of the crisis, along with the hedges, perhaps, and cannot, for mitigated the force of her statements. It is the feminine nature crawling slowly in facing the facts, or the situation is too hard to be declared apparently in the introduction of her speech. The second part of the speech, which is the problem, includes the majority of the rhetorical devices used by Merkel in her speech, introducing the most significant point she would like to shed light on. Merkel's first focus was urging her people to prevent the infection from each other. When she said, slow the spread of the virus and accept to be quarantined in this period until finding the treatment and vaccine. When she said, buy time. As long as this is the case, and this is what is guiding all of our actions, as Merkel says, then only one thing matters, namely that we slow the spread of the virus, flatten the curve over the course of several months, and buy time. Sympathizing with her people, Merkel used metaphor and metonymy to describe the severity of the quarantine. When she said, I know how dramatic the restrictions already are. These are restrictions, the likes of which the Federal Republic has never seen before. In this statement, Merkel detached herself from the intimate way of addressing her people and criticism, reaction, as if there is no tomorrow, is pointless and at the end of the day shows a complete lack of solidarity, as Merkel said. The last part of Merkel's speech, which is a conclusion, involves fueling the sense of responsibility, which Merkel did by means of metaphor and synecdoche. When she said, how many loved ones will we lose? The answer, to a great extent, lies in our hands. As for Johnson's speech, which is the other data which are analyzed and investigated, but the distribution is different, thus to make his point clear and precise. For example, he said, biggest is for decades, and this country is not alone. All over the world, we are seeing the devastating impact of this invisible killer. On the contrary to a miracle, Johnson did not give any justifications nor apologize, since for him it is an emergency with no room for courtesy. Also, his use of metonymy and synecdoche might be an indication that in this unprecedented situation, all share the same responsibility. For example, he said, and so tonight, I want to update you on the latest steps we are taking to fight the disease. In the second section of Johnson's speech,
Can you kindly conclude?
In the conclusion, the effect of COVID-19 overwhelmed everything, including the president's language, but some essentials are not liable to be changed under hard times. In other words, the feminine and male language under such circumstances shared some characteristics, but the main differences are still existed. Number two, both speeches have similar effects on their people since all countries with or without developed healthcare system share similar amount of victims. Consequently, under this unprecedented crisis, There could be no persuasive speech since the concept of persuasion might be understood differently according to the situation. Finally, it's worth noting that irony is not used in both speeches, for the situation is not ironic anymore. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Maha, first, the title of the conference is Teaching Foreign Languages During Pandemics.
Okay.
Pandemics, and I see nothing related to teaching languages in your presentation.
I think it is an implied sign to make persuasion a part of the curriculum.
But this is, maybe Dr. Hassan and Dr. Jasri, who are also joining us now, they agree with me that unfortunately this is related to discourse analysis and not related to what we call it, to teaching languages, teaching foreign languages, in fact. Okay. In all cases, thank you so much. And I hope that next time there will be more implementation of the main title of the conference in any article that is discussed during any conference. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Jasri, if you can kindly join us.
Okay, I'm there. Right, just let me share the screen first.
Yes, please.
Okay, hello everyone. On behalf of my co-authors, Dr. Ahmed Darwish Muazzin and Dr. Abdul Halim Abdullah, I'd like to thank the organizers of this meeting for giving me the opportunity to be here today. The title of our study is The Effectiveness of Teaching and Learning Arabic as a Foreign Language Online in Turkish Universities. The research problem and significance. This presentation is actually an overview of the challenges that face teaching and learning Arabic as a foreign language online in the Turkish higher education sector in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. This study suggests that these challenges can be further explored through studying the perceptions of teachers and students in those universities. 3, this study aimed to investigate the effectiveness of teaching and learning Arabic as a foreign language online in the Turkish universities. So in this regard, the study tried to highlight the importance of exploring these environments and how they are impacting the teaching and learning experience with a particular focus on Arabic as a foreign language in 2 Turkish universities. They are Mardin Artuklu University and Ondukuz Mayıs University. Research justification. 1. Our research topic has stemmed from the findings of our literature review, which revealed gaps and limitations in previous studies about teaching and learning Arabic online. 2. Some previous studies stated, for example, that Arabic is one of the less taught languages as a second or foreign language, and therefore not all Arabic language programs or faculty support teaching Arabic online, in addition to individual talents and limitations of instructors and the quality of the learning materials used. 3, also, it is usually hard to offer Arabic material, and it is also hard to provide suitable search tools. And in addition, many popular current applications cannot fully support the language. Also, the Arabic language, despite conducting some studies before COVID-19, these studies are not sufficient and were not conducted in the time of the pandemic. they focused on distance education as an important method of education and not as a case study, and did not highlight the advantages and disadvantages as we did by studying the perceptions of students and teachers, especially in the time of the pandemic. Also, before COVID-19, teaching and learning Arabic online was optional, but now it is obligatory, mandatory. 6 other studies show that there are a number of affordances of studying Arabic online. The researchers in those studies believe that further studies can investigate how learners utilize technological tools to afford and facilitate their language learning and also enhance language autonomy. Therefore, the study aims to address the gap or maybe gaps identified above, address the research questions, and highlight the affordances that can be offered by utilizing technologies for language teaching and learning. Research questions. Now, the importance of this study lies in finding out, 1, the learner's perceptions of Arabic as a foreign language and the online learning experience in Turkish university. 2, also in the light of this environment, this study aims to find out the teacher's perceptions of Arabic as a foreign language and the online teaching experience in Turkish universities. Also, the study seeks to see if online learning enhances learner autonomy. And finally, the study seeks to see how we can develop online learning of Arabic as a foreign language to encourage learner autonomy. Methodology and methods. Now, the primary objective of this study is to investigate the teachers' and learners' perceptions of teaching and learning Arabic as a foreign language online. And to achieve this, the study was conducted on 2 Turkish universities that teach Arabic language. The study relied on the qualitative approach, which involves 2 qualitative research instruments or methods. They are interviews and diaries. In this study, these methods are used in order to obtain a deeper understanding of the phenomenon under investigation, because they may easily provide the information concerning the teachers' and learners' perceptions and experiences of teaching and learning Arabic online. The study sample. The participants for this study were students and teachers from the 2 Turkish universities, on University and Mardin Artuklu University. On University students were 4 males and 6 females, whereas teachers were 4 males and 1 female. Mardin Artuklu University students were 5 males and 5 females, whereas teachers were 5 males. Data collection and analysis. The qualitative analysis was based on 30 interviews. They were 10 interviews with the students and 5 interviews with teachers from each university. As for the diaries, there were 3 diaries from students and 2 diaries from teachers at University, while there were 3 diaries from students at Mardin Artuklu University. Thematic analysis was used in this study to identify students and teacher perceptions and experience, and this involved the following themes: 1, effectiveness, curricula and exercises. Next, tools and technology. Next, advantages and disadvantages. Next, development and appropriateness, and then learner autonomy. Findings. By analyzing the teachers and students' interviews and diaries, the findings we obtained can be summarized as the following. 1, most students, about 13 students, believe that the curricula designed today to teach the Arabic language are not suitable for online teaching and that they need to be developed to suit online teaching, especially the exercises and curricula that are taught. Two, in some areas, there is poor internet or students don't have their own computers in order to follow the teaching process well. Three, some students, about 18 students, use some social media sites such as YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, in addition to platforms for teaching the Arabic language, such as the Global Arabic Open Platform. Now, in their view, this is important for the students to continue learning the Arabic language and develop themselves during COVID-19 and develop online teaching and learning as well. Four, some students, about 15, believe that teachers are capable of conveying information online well. However, other students believe that teachers should be familiar with the technological and the modern digital tools used in online education, and therefore technological training is needed. Five, one of the disadvantages that students and teachers found for online education is that this type of education helped the educational process to continue during the corona pandemic. And also online education shortened distances, saved time, effort, and money for teachers or students, and helped in the learners' autonomy and encouraged them to self-learning. Six, face-to-face online education are incomparable. Now, one of the disadvantages which students and teachers found for online education is that online education is not comparable to teaching face-to-face. They prefer face-to-face education because it provides them with an environment to interact with the teachers and their colleagues in the classroom. Seven, online education complements face-to-face. Most of the students and teachers suggested that online education complements face-to-face learning, but does not replace it. They believe that face-to-face education is indispensable. Eight, online education promoted searching and learner autonomy. Most students believe that online education enhanced their learning autonomy because it provided them with greater opportunities for searching for information and reading, and enabled them more to understand information by relying on themselves through the resources available. Recommendations. There are several recommendations and solutions for teaching and learning Arabic online. They can be summarized as the following. One, to create special curricula that are suitable for teaching Arabic online. Two, to establish educational platforms for the Arabic language, in addition to acquainting faculty members and students with the current platforms and how to benefit from them. Three, to hold open courses, seminars, and international conferences to acquaint Turkish university teachers with online education techniques and offer solutions to problems and challenges faced at the level of individuals, institutions, and universities. Four, universities should ensure that all their teachers have the necessary technical tools and equipment for online education before the academic year starts, and maybe help them obtain modern tools and equipment. Five, to work on integrating online education and face-to-face education after the end of the pandemic, and take advantage of this type of education that has achieved success in some aspects. And finally, to keep encouraging students to search, read online, and contribute to increasing learner autonomy. And I finished. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jisri. And Dr. Hassan, Dr. Jisri, we can wait for some questions. Are there any questions anyone would like to raise? Anything regarding the studies that we have been listening to and watching at the same time, of course?
Actually, I agree with Dr. Hassan, and I thank him for his presentation. It's very interesting. Now, although I don't teach young learners, I am experiencing actually similar problems with the students because I teach preparatory students, hazırlık, what you call in Turkish, and I really don't have any solution for them, because you talked about motivation, how to motivate young learners, but I don't know if you have tried to motivate them and these ways that you tried have worked out.
Hocam, thank you very much. We are also teaching in the prep program. So we just interviewed with the teachers of young learners. And in our program, we also have similar challenges, similar problems, especially about motivation. For example, just consider the attendance rates. So compared to face-to-face instruction, it is maybe half of the students, you know.
Less than half.
Less. For my case in Sakai University, it's like 10th, 15th, sometimes 25th, which is maximum, especially with the last few weeks.
Which is almost similar in many situations, and it depends on the course. In prep programs, sometimes it is more. In other courses, so regarding motivation, well, I try to look at teachers. I try to cooperate with teachers who are doing it, you know, in a good way. In a good way means who have high attendance rates. What they do is they usually plan ahead and they usually assign tasks before the course. So this makes the learners somehow motivated. So they come to the classroom with some questions in mind, and they are going to address to, you know, some issues, knowing that, for example, they have a question or they watch a video. It is just like a flipped classroom. So they just do the reading and the tasks beforehand. But in some situations, even though we do all days, still it doesn't work, unfortunately.
Yes. Is attendance obligatory at your university?
No.
No.
For our own case, no.
This
no,
is
the same for us.
They are taking advantage of this excuse, and they, you know, they
don't come.
Different excuses for not attending.
Hocam, as far as I know, the department, a lot of teachers told that at the Senate, the attendance should be less. Normally, for example, in our situation, it is 70%. Okay, let's make it less, maybe 60,
40. I'm happy with 40, no problem. Just need to see them.
Exactly. But I think this suggestion was not accepted by the Supreme Education Board. I think some of the learners would be disadvantaged. It is because some of the people do not have access to internet or
remote areas, and
especially. So I think that is one of the biggest, you know, challenges at this period. Attendance should be a must to a proper degree.
Exactly.
You know, like what I thought, and God forbid if this continues, at least they should attend after class, not genre, not live, but at least a record, like, because in the system that we use at our university, we can see those who are even attending afterwards. But even this afterward attendance is not obligatory. So they are just like, you can see a student only when he or she has an online exam. That's it. So at least, like, even if you are disadvantaged and you are in a remote area where internet connection is very bad, but you can somehow watch it afterwards, like in the early hours of the morning, like at 4 or 5, because at the end they wanna be professionals in their own field, and they are about to graduate, and some of them graduated because they are in the 4th year. And I don't know, like, if I were a businessman and I wanna ask some of those to work with me, I will be very careful with those graduating in the Corona era.
When we were talking to several teachers, I think online education has become one of the biggest, part of our, let's call it discussions throughout this period. So the thing is, we are fighting against, for example, Netflix. We are fighting against series. So they are there and we are there. And the students are going to choose between me and the actor. So I feel that, Hocam. So I'm somehow limited by humor. I am somehow limited by, some actions or things. So this makes me disadvantaged, and I lose this game when I compare this to those actors.
Well, any actor or actress would definitely win against us, Hocam. There is no way to compare. Like,
there is actually one more thing to ask you, Hassan Hocam. What about exams, online exams? I mean, have you considered them, their validity, authenticity, whatsoever?
Hocam, thank you very much for the question. Actually, İrem Nur is here, and we also work with İrem Nur, and she is going to present a topic on language assessment, especially referring to language assessment preferences of students in the times of COVID-19. Let me tell you a few reminders of the presentation. Usually students prefer homework, or let's call it, they do not like timed assessment tools. For example, if there is an exam, for example, which is assigned 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and so on, they do not appreciate this, but they need more time. So they usually prefer homework. Validity is another issue. We have security concerns, a big security concerns. We have plagiarism issues and so on. And we are using, for example, for my own course, I'm using Turnitin, and students, when they submit their essays or something else, other homeworks, they usually first submit it to Turnitin. And this at least makes me a little bit comfortable, even though it does not, diagnose whether it is another teacher, another researcher who has, written that thing. So
which course this, Hocam? Which course?
I'm teaching speaking, and I'm teaching language testing course for the 4th graders. So in those courses, we sometimes assign, written tasks, not for speaking, but in writing. For example, we gather data from writing courses. So they submit essays, but sometimes students find it easier to, copy paste things. And, but I think this Turnitin works to a proper degree. It is because students at least know that they are monitored.
Yes.
So if they feel that, Hocam, they commit such issues less than usual.
Okay. Anything anyone of you would like to add, or shall we conclude? Whatever you wish, of course. We still have 15 minutes. Yes, Dr. Jisri?
So maybe we can conclude because we have another session to chair.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's better if there are no questions that we conclude.
Okay. Hassan Hocam, anything?
Hocam, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for everyone.
For the lovely conversation.
Okay, thank you so much. Wish you all the best. And see you soon. All of you. See you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.